Welcome in. We're going to do classical record reviews. I have some set aside that I'd like to talk about, and I might pull some off as needed. We're trying to find the very best sounding audiophile grade records that are out there. I'm going to listen, pause the tape, and then come back and tell you how I feel about it. So it's a fresh take, hot off the press kind of thing. So let's see how it goes. Okay, we'll start out strong. We've got Stravinsky, Le Sac de Prétemps, or The Rite of Spring. Bernard Haitink, London Philharmonic Orchestra, which is a little different because usually he's working with concerto bow, especially on the Philips label. But London here. It's a 1973 Dutch pressing. The Holland, made in Holland is what you want for Philips. It's on the classic red label, which you'll see this one a lot. It's a gatefold, beautiful, glossy. It's got a picture of a young Stravinsky in 1911, probably about the time when this premiered. And it is a wonderful disc. Dynamic. It's punchy. It's vibrant. You can hear every instrument, and London just knocks it out of the park. So the energy, it's really almost like for me, it's almost a demo disc for people to hear my system and hopefully be impressed, because it just explodes on the spazzy parts, which if you know Stravinsky, there's a lot of spazzing going on. So your orchestra needs to be on point, and the disc needs to be able to handle it. So you have to cut it the right way, which Philips did. And if you're not too familiar with Stravinsky or this piece, to me, it sort of marks the changing over to modern music from classical, like real classical style. It's an interesting read on how this piece came about. It was music for a ballet, and Diaghilev, who was sort of like a tastemaker, big in the art scene, he had what was called the Ballet Russe. So it was like a ballet team. They were in France, but they did mostly Russian type stuff, and was wildly popular. And when they premiered this, I think it was 1911, I believe, like it caused a fuss. Like the fist fights were breaking out in the crowd because some people were saying like, this is terrible garbage, and other people were saying, no, it's wonderful. So it was, and even the ballet itself was definitely different than anything anybody had ever seen, with the outfits and the way they were dancing. So it caused a commotion. And it is. This whole disc is a commotion. It's a wonderful session of explosions and wild style. And even if you're not heavily into Stravinsky, which I could understand that because it's a lot to take in, but the spring rounds, which is usually track 4 on a lot of records, is what's so enchanting. It's just hypnotic and just wonderful composition. For performances, my personal favorite is Dorati with London. This one is probably a close second, though. It's really great. So check this one out if you see it. I like to, on the sticker on the actual album, there's a gold sticker that says imported from Europe. Like it's a little bit patronizing. Oh, next up, keeping with the Philips, we got Bruch with Violin Concerto 1. Arthur Grimaux and New Philharmonia Orchestra with Heinz Wahlberg. And I don't recall having many records from Heinz Wahlberg. It sounds fantastic. This is great. I mean, quiet pressing as usual. Same, we've got the red label Philips, made in Holland, 1974 pressing. Yeah, it's great. Next we have Bach Overtures, numbers 1 and 4. This is the Munchinger Bach Orchestra with Karl Richter conducting. Now this is on the Archiv label, which is a subsidiary of Deutsche Grammophon, but they don't sound like Deutsche Grammophon at all. They were doing their own thing. Like the two teams were not on the same, did not have the same philosophy. And I gotta say, Archives is much better, like much better. They're, great, like absolutely quiet vinyl, really well balanced, a touch bright, maybe. It could just be my system. Like I like to give it just, if you do have an EQ, give it a little bit of bass. But these are so good. And so many that I find are absolutely pristine, flawless. Like the people that bought them really cared for them. They're almost always gatefold, and the labels themselves have almost like a foil, like silverish foil. So it's really easy to tell how many times or how sloppily they've been played, because around the center punch hole, you can see if it's been slid around all sloppily, like it marks up really easily. So if you find one and you look at that and there's nothing there, then that's a really good sign that it probably hasn't been played much, or else whomever owned it was really careful with it and probably had good equipment too. So Archive is really good. If you see them, it's worth a listen. Usually these are older pieces, and a lot of times on period instruments, I believe. Also another one, let me find, hold on while I'm here. You will find this one here. Give me 1 second. if you want to get a taste of Archive, you can find this album for really cheap. It's basically the head of a compilation, like a compilation demo disc. I see it, like I have multiple copies, and because I keep picking it up because it sounds so good, and each one I find is almost flawless. So it's good, and it's Bach, and I think the first side is mostly actually all either choral, and there's some female vocal on it. Not that that's a bad thing, but maybe you're not into that. I mean, I wasn't at first. But it crept up on me, the choral. Now I have a lot of choral stuff, but anyway, I digress. This is worth getting, and you'll find it for cheap because it is a compilation, and it's record store owners don't know what to do with it because it doesn't really seem like a proper album, but it sounds really, really good. Just so well balanced. On each recording is special in its own way on here, so it's really, really good to have this one. Yeah, get this one. And I should say, actually, I said before that almost all archives are gatefold. No. The older ones are not. They look super simple. I'll pull them out some other time. But they're very simple looking, just plain sort of manila covers, and a lot of them aren't gatefold. And the foil on those, or the actual label, is even more like foily. It's almost like tin foil, sort of. It seems like. But Archive, check it out. It's great. Keeping with the Bach, next we have the Brandenburg concertos with Concentus Musicus Wine with Nicholas Harnoncourt. Now, this is on the Telefunken label. So Telefunken from Germany. We got the blue label here, like light blue, which is a lot of that. Before, they used to be on a sort of really dark, or actually not dark, they were black with gold. They look really badass. But anyway, then they went to the blue. Then they joined with Decca. So anyway, we'll talk about that later. But this one it sounds good, but it is so incredibly treble heavy. Like I can't even put it on my main deck. I have to use another deck that I have a little preamp with bass and treble control on it. And I basically turn the treble like almost all the way down and the bass almost all the way up. It's insane. I've never used that EQ curve on anything else other than this particular box set. And it sounds good actually once you do that, which it shouldn't. It's so treble heavy. And then actually I was just reading something the other day deep somewhere on the internet about the RIAA curve, that they didn't use it actually on these earlier Telefunkens. And that's indicated by this little triangle that you see here at the bottom with the 33 in it. And also they're mentioning on that webpage, actually I'll try to link to that webpage, they were that actually on Deutsche Grammophon as well, which as you know are incredibly treble high and bass shy. They don't have enough bass in them. The ones that have the triangle in them, that was the indication that they were actually using the DIN system. So it was a different EQ curve that they were trying to deal with. Well, I won't get into it too much, but basically they were having troubles implementing the RIAA curve because it had too much bass for their cutter, the cutting heads when they cut the records. So they were using this other curve. So if you do find a lot of Telefunkens are super trebly, and also some Deutsche Grammophones as well, like the earlier ones, that's why they're using a different EQ allocation. So, but anyway, we got Nicholas Harnoncourt on this one, and his wife is on it too. Alice Harnoncourt's playing violin. There's a whole book in here. It's cool. You can read up about it, and also they show all the instruments too that they use, and it's cool. Yeah. It's worth getting. You'll find this one around there. I have a couple copies. Okay, next up is Enesco Conducts Enesco. Romanian Rhapsodies numbers 1 and 2, and Detour for wind instruments. This is the only available recording, apparently. It's a historic recording. Yeah, and these were made in 1951. Conducted by Enesco, which is really cool. So it is historical. It doesn't sound good. I can't say that it does. It's on the label Remington Varese Sarabande, which is, I actually wrote to this company when I was in college to try to use a copyrighted material for a soundtrack that they did, and they never got back to me, but what can you do? Not that I could expect them to, now that I think about it. But anyway, long story short, no, not good. Unfortunately, even though it's cool that it is a historical recording, but no. And I should note a bit, like the reason why it doesn't sound good, it just seems like the recording venue is not suited at all. It's it is a 51 recording, so of course, this is, they're using older technology, but it just doesn't sound full. It doesn't sound right. Even I gotta say the performance doesn't sound very good either. So that's kind of why. So I don't know. This is the only Varese Sarabande disc I think I have, as far as I know. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would jump all over anymore. The cover is really cool. I love that artwork. Kalaske Zielstra, The Feminine Mystique, 1969 is the cover. That's cool. Okay, this next one, I really just took a risk on it, actually, and just bought it. ABC Classics. So ABC, I don't know, I mean, not really known for making I have a few discs, and they sound pretty good. I'm going to actually have to check some of them again, because this sounds fantastic. Really good. It's the Sion series, so thoroughly researched compositions and exemplary performances on period instruments. So kind of, dealing with the hip movement, historically interpreted performance movement that happened sort of in the 70s, late 60s and 70s. So yeah, this is a compilation showing, taking a little bits from each of their series here, and they're really good. Like really well balanced. It just sounds great. I mean, the disc sounds good. It's clean. There's no noise to it. It sounds right. I mean, the harpsichord piece on here, like it's a lot of harpsichord. Like, whoa, it's definitely not subtle. But the pieces that have like flute and recorder, like they don't sound, off, it's easy to mess it up on vinyl for it to just sound just grating kind of. Here it sounds perfect. And some of them are really amazing actually. So this is good. ABC with this label, which I think actually it does give me a good impression of something else that I had on, I think on this sort of gradiated blue to silver label. I can't remember what else I have on this, but this is good. This is really good. ABC Classics, definitely check them out. Next we have Tartini, a lot of violin concerto stuff. Just read it. I'm not going to read all the pieces out, but it's I Celesti Venti and Pier Tosso and Severino Zanarini with Claudio Schimone, who does a lot for Erato. I've seen on Erato. And this is the black label with the silver print, which is kind of seems like their final iteration for vinyl. Before that, they had the blue and white, like half blue, half white. And then different colors with white, like there was purple and green. I found that the blue and white are probably the best if you can get them clean. But these black and like all black with silver text are fabulous. They are a little bit treble heavy for sure. And I guess, well, it's like them with a lot of classical records, but these ones especially. And like bordering on screechy actually at times. But really good. Just turn the treble down a bit. If you have an equalizer, turn the bass up a bit, and it'll sound great because they're on super clean vinyl and we're pressed with care. Like the people who produce them really cared. Erato, they've done fantastic work, and I've always have a soft spot for them because I think my first experience listening to really clean, dead quiet vinyl and a precise recording was probably on Erato. I forget which title it was, but it was Erato. And after that, I just grabbed pretty much anyone that I saw that was in good condition, and a lot of them are. So yeah, this one is really good. A touch screechy, yeah, a little bit. I gotta say, I don't know what, maybe at like the 6,000 kilohertz kind of range, it sounds a little bit much. Like they just boosted it a little bit. I bet the tape sound, if they repressed it, it would be unbelievable. But anyway, I don't think they do repressing much, or I haven't heard of any. Anyway, it's a good one. This is a good one, Tartini. Just keeping with the Erato, I wanted to check another one here, like another violin piece to see if it was really screechy. Not that the other one, the Tartini, was screechy, but it was a bit much. And this one, I am not getting that. So this is Frederick Leon interpreting Boccherini for 2 concertos for violin. And this is the Bournemouth Sinfonietta Orchestra with Theodor Gulschbauer. You can tell it's the same philosophy, recording philosophy, but maybe it's the venue and the instruments, but it sounds perfect, really. Like it's a little, okay, it's kind of a recurring theme, but a little treble heavy, but overall it sounds really good, really articulate, very delicate too in place. In the quiet places, you can really hear it. Like it's good. Super clean vinyl. I'm going to try too. I'm going to listen to, I have a Japanese pressing on Erato that I just want to hear right after this and just get the feel for it. I tried out this Erato that I have that's a Japanese pressing on RVC. It's a 1979. Well, yeah, it would be a repressing. L'Habitoire de Baroque Italien. So it has Cimarosa, Zipoli, Marcello, and Bellini. So it's Pierre Perilot on the Habitoire, under direction of Palliard, who does a lot for Erato. Yeah, it sounds really good. I actually kind of had a suspicion that I was hearing a bit of grain in some of the Japanese pressings that I had. Like, it just sounded they just didn't have that presence. But this definitely, it sounds like I wouldn't be able to tell it from, I'm sure, the original. It sounds really good. Like, there's nothing lacking at all in the spectrum, the dynamics, the overall feel of it, the noise level, nothing. Like, it sounds perfect. Really good. Really, yeah, I don't know. I listened to this before, but I didn't. Anyway, it's great. So, and this is on the blue and white that you'll see, but it is a Japanese pressing of it. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, thumbs up for this one. I'll do some more Japanese pressings, but later. Not right now. I'll do a set of them later. Wow, okay, I'm back. That took a lot longer than I thought. I was just demoing this disc just to get a feel for it, and I just got sucked into it. The performance is fantastic. And the balance is so great too. It just sounds so good, which is surprising for this. I did know that this was a good disc because I bought it not long ago and I remember just loving it. I set it aside. Yeah, Wilhelm Kempf, Berlin Philharmonic, Ferdinand Liedtner conducting the Beethoven piano concertos 2 and 4. You know, for this pedigree of Deutsche Grammophon, like this normal pressed in Germany that look like this, I'm gonna say, 75 maybe, mid-70s. There's a lot of them that sound terrible. They really just don't sound, and it's such a shame because there's such good performances on there, but a lot of the Karajan Berlin stuff, the strings are just so wacky, and the soundstage is so strange. But this one sounds great. I mean, the piano is a bit far back, but it suits it somehow. There's a lot of reverb on the piano, but it fits. It all fits together. And nothing is strained. It's so disappointing that this sounds so good. And so many of those Karajan Berlin ones, like sorry man, like he's an amazing conductor, but like that's just a crime that some of those are recorded or just pressed so badly. And this sounds so good. I mean, the level is a little low, so there's a bit of noise, but it doesn't matter. Like, I'm listening with headphones here, but I mean, just listening to it normally, like, you wouldn't know this is a Deutsche Grammophon, for sure. You would not guess it. You'd think it's something else. Like, even, I'm going to say, yeah, like, even like a Decca London or an EMI. Like, you wouldn't stop and say, oh, that's a Deutsche Grammophon. Like, this just sounds so open, so good. Not necessarily super open, but just balanced. It's refreshing. Yeah, and a German pressing. So actually, in continuing on this, like, this does make me wonder, should I be looking for Deutsche Grammophon Berlin Philharmonic that's not associated with like, was it Karajan that just botched them? And did Ferdinand come in and be like, yeah, no, we're not going in that direction. Like, I just want my record to sound like a normal record. So I think I'm going to start looking for, because I pass on tons of Deutsche Grammophon. I mean, they're very common, and so many of them sound awful. I mean, of course, if you're collecting and you're trying to get a good sound, try to get the purple tulip ones. You know, even with the stereo in red, get that if you can. But I mean, they're probably going to be a bit beat up, but they still sound really good. And a lot of them, they're using tube equipment on them. So a lot of times these normal yellow ones, Germany pressing, or it'll say West Germany, it's a bit of a gamble. Try to listen to it beforehand. So a piano usually sounds pretty good, but where there's big strings involved, it just sounds so wacky. Okay, we'll wrap it up with this one. This is London, which is Decca for all intents and purposes. Oistrakh, Bruch, and Hindemith. Bruch for Scottish Fantasia and Hindemith for Violin Concerto. It's by Hornstein and Hindemith. So Hindemith himself is conducting the Hindemith Violin Concerto. And it sounds, it's fantastic. It's so good. And this is the red narrow band, made in England. The band doesn't go all the way across. And I am a little confused because I could have swore when I got this, when I was researching it, this is the original pressing, but I'm kind of doubting that now because it says 1962 on the bottom. Would that not be, that'd be a wideband, I'm pretty sure. So maybe this is a repressing of that. I will check that. Yeah, it sounds amazing. It's everything you want out of a disc, really, as far as sonics are concerned. The performance is great. Oistrakh he's a monster. He's so good. And you know what? Jascha Hornstein, I know he's famous, but I don't know. I listened to his Mahler 5, which was supposed to have these amazing reviews, and it was just, I gotta say, I just couldn't get into it. Like, it's just so, I was actually listening to it because I just wanted to hear, like, oh my gosh, how is this part gonna sound? Because it sounded so wheezy and so wrong that it was laughable, really. It didn't sound like Mahler at all. Like, anyway, I won't go on. Anyhow, he redeemed himself here. This is great. I mean, London Symphony sounds great under him here. So, really good. And yeah, and you know, with Decca and London, there's of course the debate as to if the Decca sound better or the Londons. I mean, come on. Just think of it from a financial perspective. Like, would it really be worth it for Decca to change their stampers and change all the cutting heads and all that and change the records around just to like screw over, you know, North America? Or would they just stamp a different label on it, right? I mean, that just makes more sense. And not only that, you know, if they're already known in England, like, wouldn't they want their like good records to be imports, right? To a bigger market in the States, especially. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know if I actually have any direct comparisons that I have the exact same one as a Decca. So I can't really do a one-to-one comparison, but people that do say, you know, they kind of go A or B. And of course the actual Deccas are worth more, but I don't think they're going to sound any different than, I mean, if they're made in England, they're going to be the same, pretty much the same anyway, as the London. So if you see London narrowband, I mean, they're amazing. They're pretty much, I would say, the most consistently amazing sounding discs is the red narrowband Londons. Anyway, they're awesome, and this is no exception right here. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I'll come back with some more soon. Okay, bye.